The story begins by the lake, as our hero finds the surroundings unfamiliar. He suddenly remembers he was driving along on his scooter when a vending machine ahead of him got loose and it ends up smashing into him. He is surprised he is still alive, but he soon finds he is unable to move. He suddenly hears his voice, welcoming customers to use him, and he realizes he has been reincarnated as a vending machine. We learn he was actually a vending machine fanatic, so he is surprisingly happy about his new form. He admires his affordable products and sleek design, but he soon realizes his new form might be a problem. He wonders if it was thanks to God that he was turned into the thing he loved, and he decides to just accept things. He is able to say the standard things for a vending machine, such as insert coin, and thanks for buying. He thinks about what else he can do, trying to understand his new body. He sees some writing, and he realizes it's the items he is selling. There are currently only 2 items: mineral water and corn soup. He hears a voice telling him that he can change the items by spending points, and he sees he has 1,000 points. He learns that points are converted for money, which are then used to replenish or change the goods sold, or even gain additional functions. After further investigation, he learns that the points allow him to keep different items at different temperatures, and he is also able to warm up frozen food. He checks out what other items he has, and he finds he has a range of items that he would buy from vending machines when he was alive. He decides to try changing his item to milk tea, so he spends 10 points, and the milk teas appear inside him. It seems he can gain 1 point per 100 yen, and as he learns more about himself, he finds he doesn't require electricity for power, but he consumes his points for power instead. He uses 1 point per hour, which means he uses 24 points per day. Since he still has 990 points, he can operate for about a month. After a day, he starts to panic, thinking he is doomed because no one will ever use him. However, at that moment, a giant frog appears. It approaches him, but it gets startled by his voice welcoming it. The frog starts attacking him with its club, and his durability gets lowered. He learns that if his durability reaches 0, he will break and become unusable. The frog keeps on attacking him, and he sees his durability rapidly decreasing. He notices there is a magic stat, so he is surprised there is magic in this world. He is able to repair his durability with his points, so he thinks he can just wait for the frog to get bored, but the frog suddenly calls its friends. Seeing the frog's axe, he starts to panic, and he tries to find a function that will save him, but there is nothing useful. The frogs keep beating him up, but he suddenly notices he can gain a blessing from God. He is able to choose from a number of different abilities, so he gains the barrier ability, and he is able to push the frogs away. The frogs eventually get bored, and he manages to survive. He uses his points to repair his durability, and we see he is down to 311 points. A few days later, he still hasn't been able to sell anything, but a girl suddenly appears. She is on alert at first, but she notes how she is starving, saying she isn't cut out to be a hunter. It seems she was hunting the frogs, but she hasn't had any luck. She notices the vending machine, but she is unfamiliar with what it can do. She is startled when she hears his voice, welcoming her and telling her to insert a coin. The girl wonders what kind of coins it takes. She tries a copper coin, but it's not accepted, and he learns he needs to acquire the coin conversion function to accept it. He quickly learns the skill for 100 points, and his prices change, allowing the girl to realize it will cost her 1 silver coin. She thinks it's expensive, but she decides to try it anyway because she is starving. He becomes excited to finally have his first sale, and the girl chooses his soup item. She takes it out from him, and she is surprised it is still hot. She tastes the soup, and she finds it delicious, saying it's better than anything else that's around. He is overwhelmed with pleasure to bring her such joy. And the girl wonders what other items he has. She enjoys his milk tea as well, and she ends up buying a few more corn soups. So he ended up making about 6 silver coins, which converts to 60 points. The girl ends up falling asleep beside him, but he protects her with his barrier, seeing her as a precious customer. When the girl wakes up, he thanks him for all the food, and she is startled when she hears his voice. She wonders if he is able to talk, because she knows someone who invents tools that have magical power, so she wonders if he can only say certain lines. She notices he can understand her, and they come up with a way to talk, where he will say hello to answer yes, and thank you to answer no. She introduces herself as Lamis, and she starts trying to learn more about him. He can't tell her his name, so she decides to call him Boxxo. She wonders if he is lonely, and she suggests moving him. He agrees to this, and the girl suddenly picks him up. He can't believe she is so strong. They make it back to the village, and the guards wonder what she has brought back. She explains it as a magical tool that can grant items in exchange for money, saying she found it by the lake. The guards are surprised he can talk, so they think he could be sold for a high price, but Lamis says she is taking him to meet her friend. The guards try buying from him, and they are instantly impressed, going on to try all of his items. They tell Lamis to bring him around once in a while, and Boxxo thinks business is looking up. They get inside the village, and Lamis notices a girl being bullied. She beats up one of the thugs, but we see that despite her strength, she struggles to land a hit on the man. The men decide to run away, and Lamis checks up on the girl. Lamis goes to the inn, and her friend Minami rushes to her, glad that she returned unarmed. It seems Lamis was left behind by some other hunters, but Minami tells her she has helped her spread bad rumors about them. She turns her attention to Boxxo, and she thinks Lamis has brought back more junk, but Lamis claims he is super useful. As Lamis sets him up outside, Minami knows she wants to go to the surface to show Boxxo off to her friend, but Minami wonders how she will pay for the transfer circle. Despite being able to see the sky, they are apparently in a dungeon called the Clearflow Lake. It seems a transfer circle is required to leave, but it seems Lamis has spent all our money on his items. Minami tells Lamis to make some money working at her inn, and she hopes Boxxo will also help to attract customers. The people are soon attracted by how good his items are, and he is able to sell quite a lot. At night, Lamis takes him over to the guards at the gate, but they eventually get bored of his items, so he thinks it's time he added some new items. It seems he has been able to sell over 400 items, and he now has over 3,000 points. He suddenly glows, and the guard is surprised to see there is a new item. It costs 3 silver coins, but the guard is excited to try something new. They wonder how to eat it, but there are luckily instructions on the can. It turns out to be stew, and the guards are impressed by the delicious flavors, wanting to buy even more. After a few days, word about his new items spreads around the village, and it seems to be a big hit. The next day, Boxxo is terrified when he finds himself confronted by a bear, but the bear actually turns out to be the director of the Hunters Association. He is impressed seeing Boxxo, and he is there to ask for their help. He mentions that they are planning to attack the base of the frog monsters, and he wants them to come along. Lamis wonders why he wants to bring Boxxo since he can't fight, but the director says his ability to provide warm and ready-to-eat food on the go would be invaluable for the hunters. And he promises to keep them safe. Lamis isn't too sure, but Boxxo thinks if they ignore the frog monsters, it might end up being dangerous for the village, so he agrees to go. They head off 3 days later, and we learn that it seems to be breeding season for the frogs, so there are an abnormally high number of them, and according to the director, they are making sure to protect the transfer circle in their village because it's the key to getting in and out of the dungeon. Besides the hunters from the village, there are also a group of hunters known as the Misfits who are joining in on this raid, excited to make some money. The hunters take a break, and Lamis sets Boxxo down. She is approached by one of the hunters, who tells her not to be so worried because they are there to protect them. He is interested seeing Boxxo, and Lamis explains how to use him. The man decides to try it out, picking out a lemon tea, and he is impressed by the packaging. The man tries the drink, and he finds it delicious. He wonders where it all comes from. But Lamis mentions Boxxo seems to just refill himself. The man becomes even more interested, so he calls over his vice captain Filmina. She addresses him as Captain Kelroy, and Boxxo is surprised to learn that he was the boss. Kelroy calls Filmina an expert about magic tools, so he asks her if she knows anything more about Boxxo. She takes a look at him, but she ends up sensing no magic power from him, saying he just seems like a block of iron. Kelroy mentions how he magically seems to refill himself. Thinking the items could be from another dimension, and Filmina suggests it could be the power of a blessing, but she finds it unlikely. Kelroy thinks it's a mystery, but decides to just be thankful to have him there. The director tells them they are camping for the night, and Boxxo thinks it's his time to shine. Everyone lines up to buy from him, and we see he has added cup noodles for this expedition. Everyone finds it delicious, and Boxxo takes note of a girl that seems to have a big appetite. Lamis gets to know her, and she introduces herself as Sway. Later at night, the director joins them, and he tells Lamis the frog den is about 3 hours away. He gives her the choice to either stay at the camp or join the hunters on the battlefield. Lamis is okay with going since she is a hunter herself, but she worries about Boxxo. However, Boxxo says he doesn't mind, so they agree to join the battle as well. The next day, they reach the frog base, but there is a thick mist, and they are walking through mud. The director tells them to attack, and we see the hunters taking out the frogs. Kelroy tells his team they will get paid extra the more they kill, so they get fired up. Lamis wants to do her best, but Boxxo worries for her because she has trouble landing her hits. A frog suddenly jumps at her, but she easily blows it away. She is surprised she landed a hit, and it seems having Boxxo on her back is giving her a better balance. We see the Misfits team taking out the frogs, and Filmina uses water magic to take out 3 at once. But even more frogs appear, and Kelroy finds it strange that there are so many. We see they are surrounded, and Boxxo starts to get worried. The frogs charge at them, and Sway protects Lamis. But there is suddenly a frog that lunges for Sway. Lamis prepares to protect her, but Boxxo's barrier blows the frog away. The girls are confused seeing the barrier, wondering what's going on, but Boxxo is glad he protected them. He buys a new ability for 1,000 points to help expand his field of view. Lamis tells him to watch her back, and Kelroy compliments her on her strength. Lamis blushes hearing this, and Boxxo warns her they are being attacked. But she is too distracted to hear him, so he ends up using his barrier again to blow them away. Kelroy is surprised seeing the barrier, and Lamis claims it must be Boxxo's power, which makes Kelroy even more interested in him. But Boxxo feels he might be dangerous. They end up beating all the frogs, and Kelroy tells his team to cut their tongues so they can get paid by the association. Filmina tells him to help, saying it's gross, but Kelroy claims he became the captain so he wouldn't need to deal with that, causing his team to call in a tyrant. They wonder what they should do next, and Kelroy suggests they could help out on the front lines. Filmina reminds him their job is to protect Lamis and Boxxo. Kelroy wants to make more money, saying he can give them all a bonus, and Filmina suggests it's up to Lamis. Kelroy begs Lamis to go, and Lamis is happy to help the hunters on the front lines. They take out some more frogs, and there are a bunch of hunters that are injured. Lamis carries them to the wagon, and Boxxo thinks about how he can help. He comes up with an idea, and he decides to give them some drinks for free. The hunters are glad to have him, and the director thanks Kelroy for coming to their rescue. The director notes that there were twice as many frogs as expected, and Lamis wonders how it's possible. The director thinks it must mean that the Frog King has arisen, and Boxxo imagines how strong it could be. The director asks for Kelroy's help to defeat it, and he tells Lamis to stay behind to help treat and feed the wounded hunters. Later that night, Lamis gets called away to help some of the other hunters, but there is a shady man that approaches Boxxo. Boxxo realizes he is after his money, so he gives him a free drink, but as the man tries to grab it, he burns the man's hand with a hot soup. Boxxo laughs at him, but the man prepares to However, Lamis returns just in time, and she ends up knocking him out, and the man is restrained. There is a disturbance in the distance, and the Frog King suddenly appears. The hunters wonder why it's there, and they all start to panic. Lamis loads Boxxo on the wagon, but the pigs are too scared to move. Lamis ends up letting them go, and the hunters wonder what she is doing, but she ends up trying to pull the wagon with her strength. Boxxo wonders what he should do, thinking his barrier isn't enough to save everyone. He tries to think of a way to slow down the monster, looking through his item list for ideas. He ends up buying Coke, and Lamis thinks he has a plan. They grab the Coke, and he buys the form change function, turning himself into a candy machine. He is filled with Mentos, and Lamis wonders what she needs to do. He struggles to explain his plan since he can't talk properly, so he just keeps telling her to insert coin. She doesn't understand what he is trying to tell her, and the Frog King approaches. The hunter thinks he must be broken, but Lamis can tell Boxxo is trying his best. There's nothing Boxxo can do, but the thief suddenly wakes up, seeing the Frog King, and he demands to be freed, not wanting to die. But a hunter stuffs his mouth to shut him up, but he starts to choke, so they give him some of the Coke, causing him to explode. This gives Lamies an idea, and she figures out Boxxo's plan. She explains it to the other hunters, and they end up using the coke to blast the frog in its eyes. Calroy and the director make it back in time, and they manage to take out the Frog King. They all celebrate, and the director apologizes to Lamies for putting her in danger, and he thanks Boxxo for saving them all, telling them their mission is complete. As they head back, they suddenly notice that the village was attacked. Lamies rushes back to the inn, but it's been completely destroyed, and she worries about Manami. However, Boxxo manages to calm her down, and Lamies thinks Manami could have evacuated to the Hunters Association. We see a giant double-headed snake, which was responsible for all the damage, and Lamies finds the two guards. She asks about Manami and her mother, and the guards tell her they are safe inside. We see that the building is well guarded, because it's where the transfer circle is located. Manami welcomes Lamies back, and they are happy everyone is safe. Boxxo thinks about helping the people, and he decides to give them all free items for the day. At night, we learn that the snake is normally the natural enemy of the frog monsters. And Boxxo is surprised to see the villagers cooking it up for food. There's a huge line since he's giving away free items, and it even helps attract some new faces. He thinks it will make him even more money in the long run, and we see he has even started selling alcohol. Lamies gets a bit drunk, happy that everything turned out well. She is also happy seeing everyone gathered around him, and she thinks he has become an integral part of their lives. The next day, the people start the repairs. And Boxxo is set up at the association, where there are plenty of people around. Lamies visits him, mentioning that the director gave her a personal request, and it's to help with removing the rubble. She takes Boxxo over to the inn, and she starts moving the rocks, easily smashing them into pieces. Her cart gets full, and she prepares to take it to the dump, but Calroy suddenly appears. He offers to treat everyone to some of Boxxo's items. Lamies gets excited, and Calroy tries to recruit her to his team, along with Boxxo, but she instantly refuses. Calroy walks off rejected, and Lamies says she's too busy with helping rebuild the inn. The next day, Boxxo is visited by a woman and her assistant. Lamies wonders who they are, and the woman introduces herself as Akawi from the exchange house. She mentions they are there, because it seems the village is low on silver coins. Lamies thinks it must be because Boxxo only takes silver coins, and he can't believe she ratted him out. Akawi proposes exchanging for her gold coins, but Boxxo isn't able to do it, since he doesn't have an exchange function. Lamies suggests they could just buy something with a gold coin, and they will be able to get the silver coins as change. They end up with a whole chest full of silver coins, but the thief sees their exchange. Later on, we see an old man in front of Boxxo, and we see he has added a lottery function. The man is devastated when he loses, wanting to spin again, but he ends up getting dragged off by his wife. The young girl Sayuri visits with a bunch of rocks to cause trouble, but she drops them all when she is startled by his voice, and she gets carried off by some men. As she approaches again the next day, she is disappointed that her father is away. Boxxo can tell she is feeling down, so he gives her a free juice, and she thanks him. At night, Boxxo gets set up at the bathhouse, and we see that he also sells hygiene products like shampoo, and he seems to be a big hit with the furry creatures. The next day, the old man is back, and this time with his granddaughter. He teaches her about the lottery function, and the girl is excited to try. She actually ends up winning, and her grandfather can't believe it. She gets an item for free, but she ends up just giving it to her grandfather to make him happy, saying she had a great time with him, and it seems Boxxo rigged it for her. The next day, the director approaches Boxxo. He heard that Boxxo now has the ability to disguise himself. So he asks him to hide out where a bunch of crimes have been taking place so he can help identify the culprit. He ends up being set up right outside the front of the association. Lamas wonders where he has gone, but Manami reminds her the director was borrowing him, so Lamas continues to help around the association. Boxxo has a quiet day, but we see Sayuri looking around for him. She runs into Lamas, and she wonders if she has given any more thought to her proposal. However, Lamas says she's not going to sell Boxxo. Sayuri says she would have enough money for the rest of her life, but Lamas refuses, saying Boxxo is irreplaceable. Sayuri wonders what Boxxo truly is, but even Lamas isn't sure. She thinks that since he can understand and respond to everything, she sees him the same as another person, and Boxxo is happy to hear she feels this way. Sayori declares she will get Boxxo one way or another, but she leaves for the day, telling Llamas to take care of him until that day comes. Boxxo reappears, and Llamas is shocked to see him, but she tells him she missed him and she is excited to tell him about her day. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to see a part 2, then leave a comment. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Take care.